My name's Cathy. I work for an organisation within the care sector. They have a contract with the local authority to provide the service that we provide, and that means from their point of view they consider the only way to do that is with a 0-hour contract. It's very, very variable hours. We have regular people that we see each week, but things change for those people and their families. So regularly you may have 2 or 3 sort of sits or shifts that you don't have to turn up for, and you don't get paid for those if you've had more than 24 hours notice. Now, if we aren't available for one of the days that we normally do, because we work with the same person on that day usually, so you have a commitment to trying to work with that person, we would have to fill out an annual leave form. We're not paid for annual leave, but we have to make sure our employer knows that we're not available to do our regular sit. So the idea is we can take time when we want to, within reason. Ostensibly that's not very easy to do because you don't get paid for that time. So if you wanted to go away on a holiday, you'd have to allow for the fact you were going to be away from work without any income, as well as the cost of possibly going away. So we can take time off, but the more of a problem than whether we can take time off or not is the fact that we regularly don't have work available to do. I think that's probably more of the problem. So when we start as an employer, it's very clear we're taken on as a 0-hour contract. But having said that, the reason it's a 0-hour contract is because that suits the employer for it to be that way. That's the only way they can afford to have the contract from the local authority. So if we don't get work, they try to offer us work somewhere else, covering someone else's shift, but that doesn't always, that's not there, so that we've got no recourse about the amount of hours going up and down. And in the same respect, if we're asked to do extra hours to cover possibly for someone else, it's very difficult to feel that you can say, well, this is my day off, because you may have not been given hours on another day. So it's very short notice that you're asked to cover for someone else. It's difficult when it's a service being provided to people. You don't want to let someone else down. You kind of made to feel in the sort of voluntary sector that you're lucky that you've got a job, that you're lucky that the company kept the contract with the local authority. Myself, my partner and my stepson all on 0-hour contracts, which is very precarious. It might be okay if all of you are being given the hours you're hoping to get, or you might be working extra hours, but when you've got rent to pay and bills, that's the first thing you have to make sure you can cover. For younger people, the job that my stepson had, he went for it because it was the only thing. He didn't have any experience, but he could cycle, so he was doing sort of delivering, so he could take the job. He had to pay £200 to effectively a deposit on all the equipment that he needed, and if any of that got damaged when he left at the end, you don't get paid for the deposit back for any items that were maybe covered in mud because you're cycling in all hours. He was also made to be self-employed. He's not aware of what that means. That he means he has to fill out his own tax returns. He has to allow to keep back some of his money to pay the tax. And for us, as his stepmom and dad, trying to advise him about that, it's not something he's really going to take on board for quite a while. And the flexibility is also not that great. I mean, as someone working in a 0-hour contract, it's really great to hear that there could be an end to 0-hour contracts. I do think there will be a kickback from employers, but as we found with the minimum wage, people manage to do that. It's increasing, and employers are still managing to pay people properly, which is a big step forward. But a key thing I think would be important is to say to employers, don't use this as your first choice, as a flexibility for you so that you can have a flexible workforce. You have to give your workers, a good working environment. A 0-hour contract should be a last resort. That's all I would say.